Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. As she said, my name is Megan, and I am an account executive at Dataplor. We are a global point of interest data provider, and I am joined by Sharat today, who is the analytics lead at Wolt. And we are so excited to dive into today how Wolt has used Dataplor's data across Europe to drive their selection insights. So before I hand it off to Sharat to get into more of the fun nitty-gritty stuff that I think a lot of you will really enjoy, I'll give a quick overview of Dataplor and what we do and what we offer. So like I said, we are a global point of interest data provider. We are in over 250 countries and territories with over 300 million places. And that goes from data from brands that have a global footprint all the way to mom and pop shops that are really local to the area and things like that. And the main differentiator is obviously that global scale. So we work with a lot of different global enterprises that need data in a bunch of different markets and need a standardized schema and something they can trust in every single market they're in. We also provide dynamic updates. So I know sometimes with point of interest data, it can get a little spotty. You don't know when the last update was, but with us, you can rely on really up-to-date data. And then also being able to provide local details and important information in maybe an emerging market or a harder to reach market. And we can provide you with that as well. And that's been something that we have provided to Wolt. So I'll hand it off to Sharat to go into his part of the presentation.
Thank you so much, Megan. Good afternoon, everyone. So Wolt is a very large food delivery company. We were actually purchased by DoorDash in 2021, making us one of the largest globally. We're in 27 countries and over 500 cities, primarily in Europe, but also in Israel and Japan. Wolt is also a very fast-growing company. We are always expanding into new markets and expanding within the countries that we're already in. Now, the primary vector of this growth is selection. So we define selection as the quantity and the quality of the venues that are on the platform. When you open the app, what do you see? Is there enough? Are they good? So today we're going to be talking about how we drive this selection using a metric that we have developed called population coverage. And we're going to be also looking at the analytical methodologies that we've deployed to determine population coverage. So what is population coverage? We define it as the number of people that are serviced by venues that are on the Wolt platform. Okay, so of all the people that exist in the world, how many are covered by Wolt? But more specifically, we really care about what we call healthy population coverage. So how many people are serviced by at least X venues, right? If you are covered, but you can only see 2 to 3 venues, that isn't a great customer experience. So we want to make sure that we are really solving for the customer problem here, making sure that you have enough venues that you can see. Now, this is a metric that we track on a weekly basis at a country and a city level. And it also feeds into our goals. So it's one of our company OKRs. It's really important to us. Also, hyperlocal is kind of the name of the game in the food delivery business. And so this is something that we solve for with very specific geographical precision. So we're able to do this at hexagon resolution 8 level, which is about like a side of one of those hexagons, about 400 meters. So we're able to get down to a very specific area. I live in East Berlin. I don't really care what is able to be ordered from on the other side of the city. I care about what's in my immediate vicinity, and population coverage allows us to unlock some of those insights. So why does this matter? Why do we care about this? First off, it allows us to accurately quantify and visualize the service coverage across all 27 of our markets centrally, so all at once. Number 2, it allows us to identify areas of restaurant partner undersupply. So where do we not have enough venues to meet the demand that exists? And then finally, it aids us in our intra-country expansion strategies. Once we've solved for a healthy selection, where to next? Where does the opportunity lie within our existing countries? So let's take a look at what this actually looks like. So here's a map of Czechia, the Czech Republic, and this is our population coverage for Czechia, right? So you can see the hexagons here represent the population covered. The color of the hexagons are how many people who live in there. And then the top right there, you can see a zoom in on one of the specific hexagons. So what are some of the data points that we capture? Well, we have the hex ID there, we have the resolution, the number of visible venues for the people that live there. So there's about 17, as well as the population. So I think 450. And so you can see like, down to about 400 meters, which I guess is like part of a neighborhood, maybe a block. Like we can get very specific about this. And we can see it across all of our countries at once. We've just looked at Czechia now, but if I zoom out of this, you can see the whole world, which allows us to make decisions not only at a country level, but at a company level. So how do we actually determine this? All right. First thing we do is we calculate what's called the venue catchment area. So this is basically the area where a person can use the Wolt app, you're serviced by Wolt, and B, you're actually in the delivery range of a Wolt venue. The second thing that we do, we have a data set that contains population data for the entire world, broken out into each 3 hexagons of resolution 8. So each of these hexagons you can see has the number of people that live inside of them. And then we finally overlay that population data onto our catchment areas, and then that allows us to determine the population coverage of a city, boil it up to the country level, and then we have our data. So let's dive in a bit more. How do we determine this catchment area? The first thing we do, and I've pulled Berlin here because I live in Berlin, but we do this for all cities all at once. We pull the venue delivery radii. Okay, so every single venue at Wolt has its own custom delivery radii. If you're a grocery store, you might be able to deliver 10 kilometers out. If you're a McDonald's, maybe 3 kilometers. We plot all this. The second thing we do is we plot what's called the city service region. So this is a polygon that we develop in our operations team at Wolt that determines what is the actual area that you're serviced by. So if you live outside this polygon, you open the app, it says, sorry, Wolt is not in your area yet. If you're inside the polygon, it's available. Then we find the intersection of the two, and that gets us the catchment area. Finally, we take this catchment area, we overlay our population data on top of it, and that gets us the population cover. We also then go back and take these venue radii that you see in the first picture here, and we intersect that with our population coverage hexagons to then say, okay, now how many venues are actually visible in each of these population coverage hexagons? And that gives us the selection lens. So not just how many people we cover, but how many people do we cover and how many venues can they see? So now let's talk about why is this useful? How does this drive business outcomes for us? And why has it been so valuable in building selection? So going back to our Czechia population coverage, one of the cool things about this is we run this on a weekly basis. And so we're actually able to build initiatives around merchant acquisition and then track how that actually affects the number of people that we can cover in a healthy way. So we do that, we run that for countries, but more importantly, we also want to identify, where are the areas where we're not so strong right now? In our existing footprint, where do we need to build our selection? And so we can also look at undersupply. So what we can do is then just filter for the hexagons where there is what we call, venue undersupply. We've selected for the population that can only see between 1 to 10 venues. As you can see, it's the outskirts of Prague and Brno there. And so the next actionable thing we do is we can say, all right, here are the areas where we know we need to sign more merchants and we need to build our selection. But more actionably, we can take these lists of H3 hex IDs, we can go to the Czechia team and say, here's where you need to build your selection. We can identify leads that exist in those areas that aren't on Wolt and have them prioritize it. So immediately we go from strategy to execution in a hyperlocal manner. And this allows us to really, really solve these supply gaps in a fast manner. So we used to be able to do this in months because we didn't have visualizations. Now it just takes a few days and it allows us to hyper-target these areas. So let's say we do this, right? And we get to a place where we have healthy selection. The next question is, what's next? What other opportunities available? Well, we can go ahead and actually plot our worldwide population data on top of our population coverage to figure out where does the next opportunity lie. Naturally, at Wolt, what we do when we think of expansion is we like to look at what is the natural extension from the catchment areas that we're already in. So here we can see like Prague. Let's see if my laser pointer works. Bad day to use a red laser pointer. At the top here, there's areas that we're underpenetrated, but there's density of population at the bottom here as well. And then on the east, we can see with Ostrava, there's lots of people that exist around there that we haven't really expanded to, but there's plenty of opportunity. And so all of these three are examples of how population coverage has really been a game changer for us, allowed us to drive our selection, grow the overall business, and ultimately deliver a much stronger customer experience. Thank you very much.